Now to the latest in the case against Luigi Mangione, who was in court today for some pretrial hearings for the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, the hearings could last the entire week, and these could decide what evidence may be presented against Mangione like next year. The defense hopes to toss out statements that Mangione made to cops during his arrest at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. Now, Mangione's defense team also wants to exclude the backpack found on him, which had a 3D printed gun inside. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to 9 state charges, including murder, as well as federal charges that, if convicted, could potentially carry the death penalty. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Marris, talk a little bit more about today's hearing. Misty, good to see you. So Luigi Mangione's defense, do they have a case here when it comes to throwing out some of this evidence?
They have an uphill battle, but they definitely have arguments, Scotty. So the argument with respect to his backpack was that it was searched while he was apprehended at McDonald's without a warrant. So the defense says because this was an unconstitutional warrantless search, everything, the contents of that backpack have to be thrown out of court. Prosecution says a warrant wasn't needed because it falls into several exceptions. Similarly, with the statements that were made to law enforcement during that interaction at McDonald's, they say that he was in custody for 20 minutes before police read him his Miranda rights. So the defense says anything he said during that time has to be thrown out as well. Prosecutors say he wasn't in custody. So these are the critical legal issues that will decide what the jury ultimately sees at trial.
I mean, if the ghost gun gets tossed out or suppressed in this case, what does that do for the defense?
That is a tremendous victory for the defense because that backpack includes the ghost gun, which is the weapon that allegedly connects Luigi Mangione to the actual killing. In addition to that was his journal, or what's been called a manifesto, which has writings which speak to intent. So if the prosecution loses those aspects and those pieces of evidence in the case, it becomes a much different case at trial. And the defense, the odds increase dramatically at trying to establish reasonable doubt.
And this pretrial hearing, that's supposed to be all week potentially here. Do you think that we're going to see any big bombshells other than, whatever happens here with the ghost gun in the backpack?
Well, Gotti, we actually heard some bombshells at the end of the hearing today where 2 corrections officers testified for the prosecution about statements that Luigi Mangione made while behind bars in Pennsylvania. He was there for 10 days before being transferred to New York. He was in a special section of the jail where he was being held due to potential threats, due to issues where he was being held alone. And some of those statements related to the healthcare system. One corrections officer said that he told him, Mangione told him, that I have a 3D printed gun in the backpack. So these are also statements the defense is seeking to keep out of the trial that were new information we learned today that was not previously publicly known. So perhaps more to come as the week goes on.
Yeah, interesting that we, the public, are hearing about all this. We'll see what the jury actually hears about. Misty Marris, thank you so much for that.